Well, welcome everyone. The meeting is in order. There's two announcements. One quick, we had check over 25,000 Gian Fiat Corp for the Main Street and Station Road project that came from the Capital Fund and grant money. That was for $169,549. The other announcement was the board would like to make a joint proclamation for Juneteenth this year. I will go ahead and read that now. Whereas Juneteenth celebrates the end of slavery in the United States and is also known as Emancipation Day, Juneteenth, Independence Day, and Black Independence Day. And whereas on June 19th, 1865, Major General Gordon Granger, a New Yorker and a West Point graduate, arrived at Galveston, Texas, and announced the end of the Civil War and the end of slavery, which had come 2.5 years earlier when President Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863. And whereas many slave owners in Texas had continued to hold their enslaved people captive after the original announcement, and therefore it was on June 19th, 1865, that approximately 250,000 former enslaved Africans learned that legal slavery had ended. And whereas Juneteenth became and continues to be today a symbolic date representing African-American freedom, and whereas New York State recognized Juneteenth as a holiday by New York Executive Law, Chapter 168A3 in 2004, and whereas the Village of Irvington Board of Trustees holds a strong belief in the value of equity and inclusion and fair treatment for all those who work, live, or visit the village, therefore be it resolved that June 19th, 2020, Juneteenth, is officially recognized as a day to honor, celebrate, and commemorate the African-American community in Irvington. So thank you for the board who all had input on the wording, especially Connie, who did a lot of the heavy lifting, and Janice did a lot of heavy editing. Thank you all for that.
No, I think it's,
You want to do a resolution there?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to accept the proclamation. If I could have a second.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next up, we have correspondence. Just flip here. Although this is related to the public hearing, I think it's just brief enough that I'll just read it now. Dear Larry, this is from Wendy Handler. In response to the Mayor Smith's question, what do you want to happen along North Broadway corridor and specifically the properties intended for rezoning? I'd like to register my strong preference to leave things as they are now. In appreciation, Wendy Handler, 43 Beechwood Road, Irvington. The next one was from the Maxon companies. This is a long submission that they actually read and discussed at our last meeting. So we just wanted to have it be officially entered into the record so people could review it, but we do not have to read it or review it tonight. Next up is Kevin Etzel. Dear Mayor Smith and Village of Irvington trustees, communities across the country, including our own, are devastated and appalled as we witness the unending stream of callous, disrespectful, and often deadly encounters between police and civilians. While many of these events occur elsewhere, both individual experience and published research reports tell us that there's not a community in Westchester that is not afflicted by disturbing police-civilian encounters, racially biased policing practices, and a problematic lack of transparency by its law enforcement agencies. This is a call for you to join our organization in making a firm and public commitment to police transparency, accountability, and a zero tolerance approach to police misconduct in Irvington. Then they have a list below is a list of specific tasks. The specific tasks are: 1, pass legislation requiring the Irvington Police Department's policies, written procedures, and patrol guides, including those related to the use of force, enforcement of low-level offenses, search and seizure, use of surveillance technology, and the penalties for violating these policies be publicly available on the Village or IPD website. Pass legislation requiring the Irvington Police Department collect data on all police stops, including the rationale for the stop and the race, ethnicity, age, and sex of people stopped, and make that data publicly available on the Village or IPD website in an anonymized form. Pass legislation requiring that officers making police stops provide an identification card, state the reason for the interaction, and state the persons may not be searched without a warrant, without consent or probable cause. Pass legislation requiring that independent investigation of any police-civilian interaction that results in civilian injury or death. And that's Kevin Etzel, 15 Jaffrey Park. Tom Thacker sent a very similar letter. I believe that it is, it seems like maybe it was a slightly later draft of the same type of letter, but included signatures from St. Barnabas Episcopal Church, Pastor Ann Groom, interim pastor, Irvington Presbyterian Church, Rivertown's Episcopal Parish's Action on Inclusion and Race, Greenberg Human Rights Advisory Committee, the Irvington High School Positive Impact Club, Irvington Activists, Indivisible Rivertowns, Rivertowns for Refugees, Mercy College Black Student Union, Mercy College Caribbean Student Association. I believe their 4 asks were the same. I think, as we announced at the last meeting, we are undergoing a comprehensive review of police policies and procedures. We will certainly consider their asks as part of that. And we'll be reaching out to both Tom and Kevin to see if they want to serve on the board, as well as, their groups, if people want to serve on the committees, not on the board, but on the committees that are in formation now. I also, anyone who's interested on serving on those committees, I urge you to send me an email. We had several people, probably half dozen, send me emails about interactions with the police department. I responded back to I believe all of them, and asked if any of them wanted to be on those committees. And I haven't heard back from anyone yet. I think, Larry, we have one person who said they wanted to. So we're starting to put together a list. But again, we haven't finalized kind of any of the committees. But the goal is to have a board member or 2 from the Board of Trustees, an expert that we're also working to identify, probably a police officer, probably a police boss, one of the lieutenants or the chief. So we're actually anticipating having kind of 3 committees so we can split up the trustees and not have to worry about public meeting law, as well as community members, and we want a wide swath of the community to be included in that. So we do need volunteers to have that be a successful a group of committees. It's kind of one big committee, but because of the public meeting laws, we have to kind of break it up. Otherwise, we have to have everything, we have to figure out, I guess, Zoom calls at the least, but we're not going to be able to do that after July potentially. So, that's, we still have kind of that to go. So thank you for that email. Next up, we have a letter from our theater manager. To village trustees, on behalf of the Theater Commission and our staff, I'd like to make the following proposal for the 2020-2021 theater season, which in normal time starts in September. After careful consideration and many meetings within our governing body and with others in the theater profession, we advise that the theater remain closed until 2021. Our arts partners and renters are asking us about our reopening plans. We think it is best to let them know now that our doors will remain closed. Request the village trustees pass a resolution stating that the theater will reopen in 2021. By saying 2021, it could be January or the spring. The reopening date will depend on what is mandated by the governor and how quickly we as a theater can meet the opening requirements. I think this is a very reasonable request from my discussions with Broadway folks. Disney actually took the lead. You probably know that Disney has 3 of the highest grossing Broadway shows with Aladdin, The Lion King, and Frozen. And they announced that they were not going to reopen until February of 2021. It's, I think what's anticipated is there's going to be severe restrictions on the amount of people that can go to a theater, whether it's 25% or 10% or even 50%. It might not be, economically viable. So they're hoping that, Disney actually said, we hope that there's a vaccine by then. And that's what they think will allow them to reopen. So they're not even confident in reopening Broadway in that amount of time, which seems like a really long period of time without a vaccine. So I think that Greg's request is wise. I think it does allow the renters to plan. So I would be happy to make a resolution that the theater will not reopen until 2021. If I could have a second on that, or we could have discussion on it too. Well,
I'm not against it. I just didn't know that we required a resolution for that.
I don't think we probably do, but I think Greg feels it's easier than him saying, I've decided not to open. If the board kind of said we can't do it, we could always make a new resolution. If it, there's a vaccine on Tuesday and we're reopening, we could probably, I don't say probably, we could make another resolution that says, heck, we're opening it in November or whatever. So but I think this gives him
one sentence resolution, Brian.
Yes, exactly. That we will not reopen until 2021. It's that's the resolution out there. If someone wants to give it a second.
I'll definitely second it. I did talk to Greg and we discussed it. It's a very, very thoughtful commission, and he's being very careful and thoughtful about this. And
And it's also, I mean, they don't take this decision lightly.
oh no,
I think it's just, they feel it's the most fair thing to do for their potential partners to say, hey, we're just not going to be open. So they can potentially find somewhere else to go, or, good luck with that, I guess. But
and it's not to say they aren't planning many virtual, creative kinds of, shall we say, events
yes.
that are permitted and safe and exciting. So stay tuned. But that was my second. Sorry.
All
That
right.
was
I like the long-winded seconds. Those are good. All in favor?
Aye.
It's not really something. It's like when you have to like something that you don't like on social media. I don't feel like I am in favor of it, but we'll allow it. But next up, we have a letter from Chris Harrison. Gentlemen, this was sent to Mike Tulin, Mike Morano, Francis Pignatelli, and Mike Cerrone of the police department, copying Larry, myself, and the Irvington School Board. Gentlemen, I cannot thank you all enough for coordinating and supporting the parade today. Without you, it could not have been possible. The parade today brought joy and thousands of smiles to the school community. Thank you for everything. I truly appreciate you and your partnership. Sincerely, Chris and every Irvington Union Free School District family. This was in reference to the teacher parade that was last Thursday, Larry. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh,
Thursday.
The email.
Yes, it was Thursday.
Yeah,
Yes,
so,
it was.
Perfect. Yeah. So it is, I'm sure people heard the sirens if they weren't able to see the parade, but it was, I found it interesting that my daughter, who's a senior, was excited about it. And I saw the video of faces of the little guys who got to see their teachers drive by and wave to them, which I think was kind of a cool thing for them. So it was a fun day, and thanks to IPD and IFD for participating and coordinating. So that was definitely a fun day. And then the last piece of correspondence I have is from Ellen Silverstein. She sent this to Larry and Joe. I am concerned about the health and safety of park users. I regularly visit Scenic Hudson Park. I'm concerned about the number of people who don't wear their masks and don't respect the rules, particularly those on lawns. Thumbs up to those who do. Please continue to monitor the situation and do whatever is necessary to keep us safe. The signage is excellent, and we could use many more. Please share this today with the mayor and all the members of the Village Board of Trustees. Thank you for your help and consideration. Please, RSVP. That was Ellen Silverstein. She's on Sycamore Lane. Larry, I think we've been constantly talking about our policies and procedures in the park. The weekends had been especially problematic, especially when a lot of parks and other places were closed, and we had kind of a large contingent of out-of-towners come, and it was just very, very crowded. So we eventually had to post a police officer there to make sure people were wearing masks and walking the right way, which some people tell me is the wrong way, but and to follow all the rules. We had trouble with bicycles, we had trouble with dogs, but I think we've seen overall a big improvement in that area, with people cooperating and following the rules. We don't have an officer posted during the week every day. We have regular patrols, but we don't have a dedicated officer. So maybe what we could do is step up patrols some, and I know we have some parks personnel down there as well. And we could just ask everyone to please wear a mask and follow the rules. It's and that goes for the woods as well. I think off-leash dogs continues to be a problem. I think I've probably talked about that as much as anything I've ever spoken about on the board. But off-leash dogs are, it seems great for your dog that runs around, but it's not great when it attacks a dog, a child, or a person, or an adult. And it makes people not want to use the woods, which I think is very unfortunate. So please keep your dogs on leash.
So there is a very effective video that includes one of our police officers and actually a family represented here on this board showing a cameo appearance. But at some point, and it's in that park, and it shows a very quick, effective way to send the message. And if
I can show it. I think I can show it now if you want me to take a couple minutes to do that.
It would be great.
Yes.
Don't be embarrassed, Brian.
I'll put my mask on.
All right, just give me a second here. now. I'm not sure why the audio isn't coming through. No, I guess I can't. I couldn't test this out before.
No worries.
No,
You
it's
get
too
the- you
bad.
get the sense.
Well, just do it. You can do it anyway. You'll get, it's so fast.
All right, well, anyway, it's on YouTube.
Maybe you can, yeah, man, it seems funny you can't share the sound, but
Yeah,
It's cute.
no, it's strange. I've seen it. I'm sure there's some setting I'm missing.
Yeah. Well, maybe I'll figure it out before we.
we could show it again next time.
Yeah, sorry.
No, this is.
Once we get to my part, then we can stop it, Larry.
I can
Look at there. Oh, there's the part there. Look at the family. Look at that family.
Closed captioning, Larry. That's good.
Well, no, that's it. That's them. They did a great job with the editing. All right.
This kid is great.
Shows that one.
Okay, Officer Walsh. It's Mayberry.
That's it.
Okay.
All right. Well done. Sorry.
It's all right.
I have to learn my broadcast skills here. Okay.
All right. So I didn't actually ask if anybody else had any announcements. If they do, before I turn it over to the public for any public comment, anyone on the board have anything they wanted to say?
Well, I'll just take a moment to mention that I think it's been publicized a bit that there are no voting voting poll locations in Irvington. The only place to vote if you are an Irvington resident and you want to vote in person is at the Dobbs Ferry Town Hall. Otherwise, absentee ballots. The board did send a request to the county executive and the Board of Elections requesting a polling location in Irvington, to no avail. Not only no avail, but no response.
Yeah, I would also mention that early voting has started. So if you don't have to wait to the 23rd to vote. It's actually open now. So you can vote and likely have less of a crowd. That's also in Dobbs Ferry.
Let me just say about the absentee voting, tomorrow is the deadline. And everyone's a bit concerned if you haven't got your absentee ballot request in, there's a possibility that it won't get back to you in time. I think at this point you have to do an email to the Board of Election, but that's on their website. So the only other option is to do, at this point, is to do early voting and go when obviously there's less people.
And people should know that even if you requested an absentee ballot and you got it, you can ignore it and just go early vote. It's the in-person voting supersedes whatever you did about an absentee ballot. So and also there's no early voting the day before, the Monday before the Tuesday. So don't expect to go that day. But right now, if you check the hours, apparently you can go quite easily to Dobbs Ferry, and it's very safe with hand sanitizer and mask. And I've seen reports that it's not crowded now. So it might be a good idea for people to early vote.
And also, since we're talking about voting, the school vote is also tomorrow. So I think you can still drop off your ballot until 5 o'clock tomorrow at Dow's Lane. So if you haven't voted yet, you can do that. That is all paper. It's all mail-in ballots, but you can drop it off in person. So it's not quite as mail-in-y as when you drop it off in person, but you can still do that until 5 o'clock tomorrow. And then the votes will be counted by hand tomorrow. So
And those are two totally separate.
Totally separate voting
situations.
experiences.
One's
right?
a primary that you have to be registered in a party, and the other one is everybody in Irvington who's in the school district. I don't know, Brenda, if somebody calls Village Hall and says, I'm confused, will somebody in Village Hall be able to explain the hours of early voting and give details to anybody who might happen to call your office?
Right. We can give them information, but we're really relaying what's at the website.
Exactly. But some people, know your number better than they know,
Another
the Board of
number.
Elections. And if they
Sure.
say, what are the hours in Dobbs Ferry on Thursday? You could look at the thing and
They're printed out for our employees, although if they answer the phone, they can help people.
that would be great. So the exact right information gets out.
And
You
it's
never know.
the address is it's Dobbs Ferry Village Hall, which is pretty easy to find. It's at 112 Main Street, and you can park in the back. There's actually parking back there, and it's basically let's quickly go over the times. It started Saturday the 13th, and that was Saturday and Sunday was 12 to 5, Monday 8 to 4. I guess none of those are relevant now. Tomorrow is 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. Wednesday's 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Thursday's 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. Friday 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And then Saturday and Sunday are both noon to 5 p.m. So again, it's Village Hall, mostly during the day. But there are some late evenings as well. But it's pretty easy to find if you Google it. But I think the key is that it's at Village Hall. And
It's on
Dobbs-
the
Dobbs
aqueduct.
Ferry.
It's on the aqueduct. You actually, if you keep walking on the aqueduct, you run into Village Hall.
You could walk and vote
Yeah.
with a mask.
Can we post the hours on a signboard out in front of Village Hall? Because some people really don't do well with trying to find things online.
Sure.
Sure.
That would be helpful.
Big print. Big print.
And I'll post it on social media as well.
Big print.
Great.
Big print.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. It's really
Thanks.
Thank you, Larry, for pointing that out. I had actually written it down earlier to talk about it, and I forgot. But now I will open up for public comment that isn't related to the public hearing.
So just a reminder, you can either raise your hand if you're in the app, or if you're on a phone call, you can hit *6, I believe, and that'll raise a person's hand. Nope.
Okay. So we'll get to the minutes of the regular meeting of the village board held on June 1st, 2020, which is the only part of the consent agenda. Anyone have any questions or corrections on that?
I have a few typos to correct, but I think when I said there's a 21-day extension, I forgot the word day.
Okay. It's good when you catch your own mistakes. So I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended. If I could have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
fine.
Aye. All right. Well, we're back to the continuation of the public hearing to consider a local law amending the zoning code to create a North Broadway mixed-use district. Tonight, we again want to hear from everyone. Then I plan on closing the hearing tonight. We'll come up with a new draft with changes based on all the discussion we've had over the past several months. And we'll probably discuss that draft at our July meeting. And that's kind of how I see the way forward. But again, tonight is just to hear any additional comments someone hasn't made, any new thoughts or anything like that. We will now, if my board doesn't have anything they want to add, we will now open it up to the public, and we're here to listen again. Well, it's not your last chance. So, we will have plenty more discussions about this. And after the new draft, we'll have to renotice it.
Hold on.
Oh, okay.
Taylor,
Taylor, you're on
Hey,
mute.
Larry.
you're on. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry. I think you thought you were going to get away without us making a comment this evening, but we thought we would quickly just chime in. I imagine others may follow if we take the initial lead. It is good to see you on our end, at least, this evening. Tonight, I am joined again by Hannah Rubin and David Rubenzahl, the owners of the Maxon property. Mr. Mayor, as you mentioned, submit a letter to your board dated May 29th, which we presented really at your June 1st meeting. So we went through some details. I just wanted to quickly mention, because we did sort of highlight it in our last meeting, but I did want to add one sort of, I'll call it a third preferred alternative. We had initially requested in our course, our clients had requested in their correspondence that the proposed 50-foot setback along Strawberry Lane be reinstituted. In the alternative, David Smith and Susan Jane Schill presented an alternative that allowed for Broadway setback from reducing the Broadway setback from 250 feet to 200 feet to allow for a viable project on the site. And those proposals relate to if the board chooses to increase the setbacks for the rear and side yard setbacks to 75. During your June 1st meeting, the village attorney inquired about the potential impact if there was only a setback from the easterly property line, which is currently owned by the Rabies. So we'd be remiss without providing a third potential alternative for the board's consideration, that if the board is not inclined to reinstate the side yard setback to 50 feet, and the village board is not inclined to reduce the front yard setback from North Broadway from 250 feet to 200 feet, we'd ask that the board otherwise consider changing the language of the zoning code to read that it's a 50-foot setback. We're most concerned, of course, referring to Strawberry Lane, changing it to say 50 feet or 75 feet if adjoining a one-family district absent a 250-foot setback from North Broadway. Basically, what we're saying is for the two properties that are significantly impacted by that large Broadway setback, which is just Maxon House and the adjoining property, then they wouldn't be subject to an additional stricter standard adjacent to these one-family to the single-family zoning district. So Abbott House, for example, would not be impacted by this change. Abbott House does not have a 250-foot setback from Broadway like Maxon does, and accordingly, the Abbott House property would still be required to comply with the 75-foot setbacks on its front, rear, and side yards. So it wouldn't impact that property whatsoever. Really, it would only impact those two properties that front along North Broadway. So again, Maxon would still have a 75-foot rear yard or easterly setback, which is the Rabies property. And then it would be 250 feet from North Broadway, but that Strawberry Lane setback would be the only other reduction. And we did show in our last submission that there wouldn't be any discernible impact to those property owners along Strawberry Lane based on your 50-foot, the village board's proposed 50-foot setback, which, as we all discussed, is 3 times greater than the existing setback of 25 feet that's currently imposed on properties in the district. Again, we appreciate the opportunity this evening. We look forward to seeing the changes to the law. And we do ask, again, in the spirit of being able to develop a good use on this site, that really it's not asking for significant flexibility, but it's making sure it's developable. And I think any of those 3 alternatives would make a potential for a viable development on the site. And again, would have no or minimal de minimis impact on any adjoining residential or other users in the district. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? James?
James, you muted.
Yeah, hi, it's Kimberly Raby. It's not James. I'm on his computer. I just wanted to reiterate our strong preference to include residential as an option within the rezoning. So it's how I led with the letter last August, I believe, and it is still strongly how we feel. I know that you continue to ask people, and I just, for the record, would like to see residential as at least an option.
And by residential, you mean single family residential?
Single family residential, please, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Anybody else? again, while this is the last part of this portion, it's not the last night for sure. So I will make a motion to close the public hearing for now. If I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we should have a revised draft by our July work session, which I don't know the exact date of that, but it's probably my calendar. But we should have a draft by then, and some fresh discussion from our board that night, and then we will open it up again to the public. Again, we're
15th.
not-
Looks like July 15th. Yeah.
July 15th.
Perfect. So July 15th is when we'll probably be presenting the new draft, and we'll be discussing it for the first time as a board. So save the date. Next up, Larry, is approval of an intermunicipal agreement for solid waste and recyclables disposal.
Yeah, so very straightforward. This is a renewal of our agreement with the county, where the county accepts our solid waste that we collect, and we pay. This is the per ton rate that we pay to dump it. So the agreement itself, I think, is consistent. Marianne, you had said it's consistent with prior years and past agreements, and we're recommending we move forward with it.
Anybody have any questions or comments about this? Otherwise, resolve to approve the intermunicipal agreement with the County of Westchester for solid waste and recyclables disposal. I'll make the motion if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Next up, Larry, authorization to approve change orders number 2, 3, and 4 for Matheson Park Playground renovation project.
Okay. Yeah, so there are a few relatively modest change orders for that project. Keeping in mind, this is a $1.2, $1.3 million project. So we've encountered a few unknowns along the way, nothing too alarming. The first change order is for $1,466.25. Again, I'm happy to go through the construction aspects of each of these, although I'm not sure I'm the best qualified to do that. But these have all been reviewed and recommended by our design professional and our engineer, as the case may be. Change order number 3 relates to lengthening out some water line in order to position it in a better spot. What we found over the course of construction is that the water lines, that there are actually existing water lines in Matheson Park, most of which are fairly poorly documented. And certainly some of the condition of some of them is not so great either. So we've learned a lot as we've started to dig, and this one's necessary to extend that particular water line to serve the splash pad. That's a more significant item, $13,500. But again, it's all been reviewed by our engineers. And change order number 4, really, they've encountered some material that they've, in the course of digging, a bunch of material is being relocated around the site to kind of bolster the shoreline in some cases, not in the water, but behind it. And so there's some material that's being reused on the site, and this change order accounts for the material that they've uncovered. $7,112.83. So project is still well within budget. We had a very good bid price, and we have a very good contractor. So far, so good. And if you haven't been down there, it's quite a sight.
I think these kind of make sense. I don't know if anybody has questions or.
No, I would just echo what Larry said. I reached out to Joe today, and he also confirmed that we're well within budget at this point in time and expect to continue to be that way.
And we're hoping a lot of the underground stuff, it has been largely encountered. I mean, anything can happen, of course, but, the underground stuff is the first stuff we're getting to. And, hopefully there's not too many more surprises.
Great. Then without further ado, resolve to approve change order number 2 in the amount of $1,466.25 for splash pad drain. And resolve to approve change order number 3 in the amount of $13,500 for copper tubing for extending water line north of the splash pad. And resolve to approve change order number 4 in the amount of $7,112.83 for hammering concrete and separating material and trench for storm line excavation. And further resolve to authorize the village administrator to execute said change orders. I'll make a motion if I could have a second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Next up are reports of boards, standing committees, and officers. Trustee liaison reports. We'll start with Mark.
Okay, Tree Commission is now making site visits again, and they are getting in touch with applicants to set up a time when they can come and with masks and be socially distanced while they check out the trees. And the second item is that most people already know this, but if not, with the restart of the Irvington Farmers Market, it also means that the GPTF volunteers are there collecting food scraps again. And that happens during the normal hours of the market.
Great. Larry?
I would, echo Mark that it was nice to see the farmers market back, and I think they did a good job in terms of monitoring people being responsibly socially distant and masked. I did miss Mozzarella Joe, but I think he'll be back. In terms of rec announcements, the tennis court opening is going well. We started allowing doubles play and registration as of today. The court is staffed with full-time employees Monday to Friday from 7:45 till 6 p.m., part-time staff from 6 p.m. till 9:45 p.m., Monday to Friday, and 7:45 to 9:45 p.m. Saturday and Sunday. We're putting hand-free sinks and toilets in the outdoor bathrooms in parks and in the senior center and upstairs at the rec center. Also, hand-drying blowers and sanitizers are going in all bathrooms. We hope to be ready to open park bathrooms soon. We're working on having sanitizers in other areas of the park once more active participation is allowed. We're working on a plan to open playgrounds and start some small type of programs. Not there yet, but working on a great deal of ways to be out and doing things as soon as it's safe and allowed. Matheson Park Playground continues to move forward and is on target to be within budget. We have delivered over 1,000 bags of supplies and food to seniors and families in need during the past 13 weeks. We hope to start to reduce the number of people we need to send things to soon. We're working on a plan to get seniors back out shopping once the new bus is on the road. We anticipate multiple groups of 4 or less shopping in the morning, followed by a sanitizing of the bus and then an afternoon shift. We hope to be able to get up to 40 seniors a week to shop on the bus and be able to take them off of the delivery list. Any senior that needs a delivery will still be cared for. The new Parks and Recreation bus will be delivered on Monday, the 22nd. Residents and park and trail users need to follow rules to keep things safe for everyone. There are still many park users who simply choose not to follow the rules. That's it.
Before we move on, one, I think it's amazing that they've delivered 1,000 bags of food. That's really commendable, and it's done quietly, and there's not a lot of fanfare, so it's really great. And also on the farmers market, it was great to have it back as well, and it was very well organized and run, and it seemed like everyone was following the rules really, really well. So all the people shopping, I should say, are following the rules. And I thought the people that set up, the vendors set things up well, so people weren't picking through cabbage heads or whatever. It was all very well done. And it was great to have it back. So thanks for that. Connie?
Well, you heard about the theater. I did Zoom meet with the commission last week on Thursday, and they were talking through many of the kinds of plans that they are making about virtual experiences and ways to enhance the awareness of what the theater does and will do. But you'll be hearing about that. I think everybody probably knows from the Channel 12 news that the bridge, bike and walking lanes open today. I plan to go tomorrow, but I'm particularly interested in the ways in which the program that you've heard me talk about before, it's called Travel Stories. It's the audio tours and the walking, biking tours to explain what you're seeing when you're going by. So some of it didn't seem to appear today as planned, but some of it did. And I think you can download the bike tour on the bridge itself. There are places to stop, and there are all kinds of lessons and information that you can learn. And also the walking tour on the bridge. So in my capacity as, kind of downtown business and tourism, I'm very, very interested to see how much this will be like the walkway over the Hudson in Poughkeepsie, and how many people it brings to the area and our restaurants. And we'll stay tuned.
Great. Janice?
Just a few things. The library, of course, is still closed, but they've been very active throughout the April and May with story times for kids, 134 in April, 251 kids in May. Adult programming, the lecture on Fiorillo LaGuardia, Thursday evening book club, and presentation on the early days of television and the colorful world of mosaics. Teen Advisory Board started meeting on June 2nd with 9 teens. And there was circulation in April of 213 on Hoopla, 1,546 on Overdrive, on the webpage 1,966. The primary hit was for the homepage, which is not surprising. I think people linked from that to lots of other things available. Circulation in May was Hoopla 176, Overdrive 1592, and the webpage 1606. For the fire department, they've been practicing social distancing, had the first firehouse lecture, sitting 6 feet apart, and conducted the first monthly cleaning where everybody was in protective gear and keeping social distancing. That's it.
Well, I should mention the Historical Society's virtual lectures. If anybody else on today's meeting heard Chet Kerr talk about the Mathesons, the Dunhams, and the Tiffany families in Irvington. There must have been 80 some people on the Zoom for his presentation about that part of Irvington history. So he'll do another one, I think, next month. They're excellent. Free.
Great. Village Administrator's report.
As I'm sure you all can see, work is continuing on Main Street in earnest, and I'm working on, getting regular updates as to where the contractors are going to be working. We'll try to post that information to the village website, so interested people can see what to expect. Station Road is almost done except for the hardest part, and they're still working on a final design, but I think we had a little bit of a breakthrough last week on the cantilevered wall over adjacent to the brook that I'm sure you've seen before. It's pretty perilous, but I think we made a little progress there last week, so hopefully we'll see that done soon.
Great.
So,
Larry, quick question.
Yeah.
Along with the sidewalk stuff, there's Con Ed gas mains still going on down by Buckout?
Yep.
That's a question.
Yes, and it's going on from the main's being replaced on Buckout, well, North Buckout, North and South Cottonette, and then Main Street between those two locations. And the latest timing I heard on that was towards the end of June, they expect it to be done. So they've been moving along. We've been coordinating our construction with theirs so that we're not stepping on each other. So we're doing most of our work up the hill from there. And then we'll jump down at some point.
One thing I noticed in the last few days, it's been so congested down there that it's really painful to go down to the lower part of Main Street. It would be nice if there was a way to make a U-turn further up, like actually at Dutcher Street now, like on a temporary basis, because you can't get down to Cottonette to make a U-turn. It's in the middle of everything. So maybe you could talk to the police chief about maybe setting up a temporary okay to U-turn at Dutcher.
Okay. Yeah, I'll talk to him about it. It's hard because we're working there too. So it's, but
that's the area that if you can turn before that, then you avoid a good deal of the really narrow congestion.
Right. Okay. That's it.
Okay. Village Clerk Treasurer's report.
Tax collection is going well, and we're busy preparing for our audit, which is scheduled for June 6th. I'm sorry, July 6th. Yeah, so it's really right around the corner. Doing a little bit earlier than usual, which is fine by us. We'll be ready.
6th. Aren't we past June 6th?
July 6th.
Oh, July. Okay,
Yeah,
July. Sorry.
That's it?
That's it.
Village Attorney's report?
No, I don't have one for.
Okay. Back to public comment. While we're waiting to see if anyone raises their hand, review of action items, Larry, do you have anything?
So we'll be posting the voting hours and information on the bulletin board outside Village Hall. And then the question just was asked about possible U-turn on Main Street, right?
Yeah, somewhere further east so that you like Dutcher, it looked like a good candidate.
Yep.
For now.
Yep.
Last chance for public comment. Otherwise, I will make a motion to adjourn if I can have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. The links
Look for
have
your
been,
email, Larry.
links have been sent out.
Thank you.
Thanks.